My friend, let me ask you a question that can shake the very core of your being. Who sits on the throne of your heart right now? What fuels your decisions, your routines, your emotions, your thoughts when you are alone in the stillness of your mind? Because if it isn't God, then something else has claimed the seat that belongs to Him. And until you remove that idol, whether it is your pride, your fear, your family, your wealth, your cravings, or your pain, you will never experience the full measure of peace and purpose that only comes from putting God first. This is why so many live in restlessness today, like ships thrown about on violent seas. It isn't for lack of opportunity, wisdom, or love. It's because their lives are built on everything but God. They have raised empires on ego, built fortresses on comfort, and crowned kingdoms with control. But every single one of these will collapse into dust if God is not at the center. To put God first is not to add Him to your schedule like an appointment you make and forget. It's not to sprinkle a little prayer over your plans and expect heaven to bend to your will. No, putting God first is a radical surrender. It is to wake up every single day and say, God, you are the reason I breathe. You are the reason I live. Without you, I am nothing. With you, I can face anything. Putting God first means reordering your soul. It means cleaning out the clutter of self and making room for His voice. It's not about being perfect. It's about being available for His truth, His correction, His instruction, His direction. It's about inviting God into the innermost parts of your heart, not just the parts you show to the world. There is power in priority. And the moment you prioritize God above everything else will begin to fall into place. Not always the way you expect, but always the way that's best. Because God does not operate in confusion. He does not bless disobedience. He does not reward divided hearts. He pours out favor on those who fear Him, seek Him, trust Him, and walk with Him no matter the cost. Let me be clear. This is not a casual suggestion. This is a command from heaven. God is not asking to be a part of your life. He demands to be the center of it. He's not interested in being a backup plan, a crisis manager, or a weekend activity. He is the source, not a supplement. And until you make Him your first thought in the morning, your deepest meditation at noon, and your last whisper before sleep, you will continue to chase after things that cannot satisfy. Some of you are trying to put God first while holding on to everything else. But you cannot walk two roads. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot carry God in one hand and your secret sins in the other. You cannot say you trust God and yet panic every time life shakes your foundation. You cannot say God is first and yet consult Him last. God is either first or He is not there at all. Putting God first requires courage, because it means you must let go of what the world told you matters most. It means you might be misunderstood. It means you may walk alone at times. It means you might have to give up relationships that are pulling you away from God. It means you must break the chains of addiction, pride, and compromise. But oh, the freedom that follows. Oh, the peace that flows when God takes His rightful place. Too many people are searching for purpose without seeking the one who gives it. They run to self-help books, influences, philosophies, and trends, all while the eternal truth stands quietly, waiting to be heard. If you want to know who you are, go to the one who made you. If you want to be filled, go to the one who never runs dry. If you want direction, go to the one who sees the end from the beginning. If you want peace, go to God, but go all the way. Not halfway, not with hesitation, with your whole heart. When you put God first, it affects every area of your life. Your words change because you speak with purpose. Your mind changes because you guard your thoughts. Your habits change because you walk with discipline. Your choices change because you seek His wisdom before making a move. Your relationships change because you no longer settle for people who don't honor the God you serve. Putting God first also means you stop trying to please everyone else. Because when God becomes your compass, the opinions of others lose their grip on your soul. You no longer live to be popular. You live to be faithful. You no longer chase validation. You stand in conviction. You no longer bend to pressure. You rise in principle. Let me tell you, the enemy fears the person who has put God first. He can't manipulate someone who's rooted in truth. He can't tempt someone who's anchored in righteousness. He can't shake someone who has built their life on the unmovable rock that is God. Hell trembles when a man or woman says, God, I surrender it all to you, not just my Sundays, not just my prayers, but my entire life. You may say, but how do I begin? You begin by making time for God, not squeezing Him into your schedule, but crafting your schedule around Him. You begin by shutting out the noise of the world and listening for His still small voice. You begin by obeying even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's inconvenient, because obedience is the proof that God is first. Putting God first also means you place His word above your opinions. You don't argue with His command. You don't negotiate with His standards. You submit, you align, you bend your will to His, because in doing so you are elevated not in the eyes of man, but in the eyes of God. Your pain, your past, your goals, your family, your comfort, your reputation, but none of those things can carry you through life's storms. None of those things can fill the void in your soul. None of those things can stand in the day of judgment. Only God. So why keep delaying what you already know to be true? Why keep circling the same mountain of doubt, fear, and distraction when you could be climbing the mountain of purpose, peace, and power hand in hand with God? Don't wait for a crisis to put God first. Don't wait for your plans to collapse, for your heart to break, for your strength to run out. Do it now. Do it while you still have breath in your lungs and fire in your soul. Because there is no greater pursuit, no higher calling, no richer reward than to live a life where God is truly first. And when you do, when you truly put God first, you will discover a power that no man can take, a joy that no storm can shake, a clarity that no confusion can dim. You will walk in divine alignment, and everything you need will be added unto you. Not always what you want, but always what is best for your soul. So rise up, make the decision, tear down every idol, silence every voice that pulls you away, and crown God, King of your heart, Lord of your days, ruler of your steps. Let His presence not just visit you, but dwell in you. Let His truth not just comfort you, but transform you. Let His guidance not just influence you, but govern you. Because until God is first, nothing else will work. Nothing else will satisfy. Nothing else will last. And some of you, yes, you listening now, are on the edge of a divine breakthrough. But it hinges on this one thing. Will you put God first? Not with your lips, but with your life. So put him first in your thoughts. Wake up thinking of him, not of worry. Put him first in your finances. Give not from leftovers, but from the first fruits of what he's given you. Put him first in your time. Open your day with worship, not social media. Put him first in your relationships. Stop entertaining those who weaken your walk with God. Put him first in your dreams. Ask him to direct, shape, and align them with his will. Put him first in your pain. Bring your wounds to him before you bring them to the world. Put him first in your battles. Seek his power before seeking men's solutions. Put him first in your praise. Don't wait for perfect circumstances to thank him. Put him first in everything. Not just in moments, not just in emergencies, but in the quiet, in the ordinary, in the everyday. Because when God becomes your anchor, the winds can blow, but you will not sink. The storms can rage, but you will not fall. The fires can burn, but you will not be consumed. Your life was never meant to run on your own strength. It was meant to operate under divine order with God as the center, the source, the sovereign ruler of all. And when you step into that order, you step into supernatural peace. The world will offer you distractions, shortcuts, compromises, but none of them will satisfy. None of them will last. Only God will remain when all else fades. So why not give him your everything now? The greatest tragedy is not a life without success. It's a life without God at the center. You can have everything, but if God is not first, you have nothing. And you can have nothing. But if God is first, you have everything. And hear me now. This world is not neutral ground. Every day is a battlefield for your soul. Every moment is a tug-of-war between light and darkness, between truth and deception, between the eternal and the temporary. And the only way to walk through this storm-tossed world with unshakable strength is to put God first, not as a religious gesture, not as a spiritual hobby, but as your lifeline, your compass, your command center, because the enemy will feed you lies that feel like truth. He will whisper comfort that hides the cost. He will package destruction to look like destiny. And unless God is your guide, you will fall into traps disguised as blessing. Putting God first is not a one-time declaration. It's a daily decision. A decision that rewires your thinking, restructures your values, and redefines what you call success. It's the kind of decision that says, even if I lose everything the world offers, but I still have God, I've lost nothing at all. And if I gain everything this world parades before my eyes, but lose the favor and nearness of God, then I have truly lost it all. When God becomes first, you no longer chase meaning in people, in applause, in wealth, or in status. You are no longer bound to the approval of man. You are no longer driven by the fear of missing out, because you are locked into a relationship with the one who sees what you cannot, knows what you do not, and gives what no one else can. When God becomes your everything, your soul stops begging for attention from everything else. You want to see transformation in your life? Stop asking God to bless your own will and start submitting to His. Too many people are asking for guidance while ignoring the map. Too many are praying for blessings while refusing to walk in obedience. You cannot expect the fire of heaven to fall on an altar you have not prepared. You must bring your heart, your time, your decisions, your relationships, everything, and lay it before God in humility and reverence in everything and everything. You must pray in the ground in humility and reverence. Let me tell you, when you put God first, It will cost you. It will cost you comfort. It will cost you popularity. It will cost you relationships. But what you gain is far more than what you give up. You gain clarity. You gain strength. You gain purpose. You gain protection. You gain alignment with the divine order of the universe. There's no blessing greater than walking in step with God. No gift higher than knowing you are pleasing to the one who formed you from dust and called you by name. Putting God first is not about emotion. It's about conviction. Because feelings will fail you. They will shift with the winds of circumstance. But conviction rooted in the reverence of God will hold you steady when everything else falls apart. You must wake up every day with a firm, unshakable resolve that says, today God comes first before my worries, before my work, before my wants. God, you see, when God is not first, fear takes the throne, anxiety becomes your master. Your mind becomes a battlefield of confusion, comparison, and compromise. But when God is first, peace floods your spirit. Direction becomes clearer. Life regains its meaning. You stop reacting and start discerning. You stop grasping and start receiving. You stop surviving and you start thriving. Putting God first also means learning to wait when the world says rush. It means trusting the process when the path is unclear. It means standing still when every voice tells you to move. Because when God is first, you are no longer driven by impulse. You are governed by purpose. You are not pushed by panic. You are led by power. You are not tossed by trends. You are rooted in truth. And yes, it takes discipline. It takes silence. It takes solitude. Because God doesn't always shout. He often whispers. And if your life is too loud, you will miss his voice. If your agenda is too full, you will miss his timing. If your heart is too proud, you will miss his correction. Putting God first means creating space for him, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. It means turning off the noise and tuning in to the eternal. Let me speak to those who feel distant from God, those who have wandered, drifted, gotten distracted. Hear this. It is never too late to make God first again. No matter how far you've run, one step back in humility opens the door to restoration. God does not require perfection. He desires sincerity. He responds not to performance, but to surrender. And if you will humble yourself today, if you will lay down your pride and say, God, I have placed other things before you, but no more. He will meet you there, not with condemnation, but with clarity, not with judgment, but with mercy. He will realign your steps and reignite your soul. But you must choose. You must choose to cut ties with every idol, every distraction, every false refuge. You must choose to remove the clutter from the altar of your heart until there is only room for God. You must choose to seek him when it's hard, to obey him when it's costly, and to trust him when it's quiet. When you put God first, you start building on a foundation that cannot be shaken. You become like a tree planted by rivers of living water, whose leaves do not wither, whose fruit does not fail. You become a force of purpose in a world of confusion. You become a light in the shadows, a voice of truth in the chaos. and your life becomes a testimony, not of what you achieved, but of who you follow. People will look at you and say, there is something different. There is a strength in that man, a peace in that woman, a fire in that soul, and it won't be you they're seeing. It will be the evidence of God reigning at the center of your life. Putting God first is not just a personal benefit. It is a generational decision. The way you live today will echo in the lives of your children and their children. When you place God above all, you build a legacy of truth. You carve out a path of righteousness. You light a torch of faith that will not go out in the storms of time. So do not delay, do not hesitate, do not postpone what your spirit knows is urgent. Let today be the day you break free from the chains of self-reliance and step boldly into the power of full surrender. Let today be the day you say, God, no more distractions, no more delay, no more divided heart. You are my beginning and my end, my strength and my song, my vision and my victory. Because once God is first, everything else falls into its rightful place. Not always easier, but always better. Not always smoother, but always stronger. Not always painless, but always purposeful. The path may be narrow, the road may be steep, but the reward is beyond what this world can offer. When God is first, you stop living like a victim of your circumstances and start walking like a vessel of divine purpose. You stop asking, why me, and start declaring, use me, because putting God first reshapes your identity. You are no longer defined by what you've been through, but by who you belong to. No longer chained by the failures of your past, but empowered by the presence of God in your present. The moment God takes the throne of your life, your spirit rises above the dust of disappointment and your vision breaks through the fog of confusion. You no longer live from a place of reaction. You live from a place of revelation. And hear this. Putting God first does not mean you will avoid hardship. It means you will not face it alone. It means the fire may come, but it will not consume you. The waters may rise, but they will not drown you. The winds may blow, but they will not uproot you. Because God, when He is first, becomes your refuge, your strength, your shield, your secret place. He becomes the reason you endure and the reason you overcome. You cannot experience the fullness of God's presence while living with divided loyalties. You cannot walk with God and flirt with rebellion. You cannot seek His guidance while ignoring His commandments. God is not a supporting character in your story. He is the author of it. And when you surrender your pen to Him, your life begins to tell a story that reflects divine wisdom, not human chaos. To put God first is to remove the mask, to stop pretending, stop hiding, stop performing. It means bringing your whole self with all your brokenness, wounds, and uncertainty to the one who already sees you and still calls your name. It means laying down the habit of living by sight and choosing instead to walk by faith. Because faith does not rest on what the eyes perceive. Faith is anchored in who God is. Faith declares, even when I cannot comprehend the path, I will walk it because God is the one leading me. To place God first demands honesty, raw honesty. You must ask yourself, who truly rules over my choices? Is it convenience? Is it comfort? Is it fear? Is it concern for reputation? Or is it the will of God? Because you cannot claim to obey God while bowing to fear. Fear will whisper for you to settle. Fear will demand your silence. Fear will convince you that surrender is weakness. But putting God first means you rise above the voice of fear and walk in the power of faith. You want a stable life. Build it on the truth of God, not on emotions that shift like sand, not on culture that bends with the wind, not on people whose loyalty comes and goes, but on God who remains the same, yesterday, today, and forever. The unchanging, unmatched, unlimited God who calls you higher, draws you deeper, and leads you further than you could ever take yourself. This is not a call to lukewarm living. This is not an invitation to part-time faith. This is a summons to full surrender. God does not ask for pieces. He commands the whole, your thoughts, your time, your energy, your heart, your desires, your fears, your goals, your grief, your joy, all of it. Lay it before God and say, take it, shape it, use it, align it with your will. That is what it means to put God first. Not to invite him into your plans, but to abandon your plans and trust his. And some of you have walked long roads of disappointment. You've tried to do it all your own way. You've leaned on your own strength, your own understanding, your own strategy. But where has it brought you? Exhausted, confused, empty. Because a life without God at the center is a life destined to collapse under pressure. But the moment you reorder your priorities, when God becomes first, everything changes. Your mind finds clarity. Your spirit finds strength. Your home finds peace. Your direction becomes clear. Because God is not the author of confusion. He is the giver of wisdom. He is not the promoter of chaos. He is a master of order. And when your life is ordered with God at the head, you begin to walk in divine rhythm, no longer stumbling in the dark, but stepping forward with confidence. Let me tell you something. The world won't. The life of true power is not found in control. It's found in surrender. The world says take charge, but God says submit. The world says follow your heart, but God says guard it. The world says live for yourself, but God says deny yourself and live for me. And only one of those voices leads to life. The question is, who will you follow? You can chase pleasure, but it fades. You can chase people, but they change. You can chase power, but it corrupts. But when you chase God, when you put him first, you chase the only one who is eternal. The only one who sees you, knows you, and still chooses to walk with you. The only one who can fill the void, heal the wound, calm the storm, and light the path. Stop waiting for a perfect moment to start putting God first. Start in the middle of your mess. Start in the middle of your questions. Start with trembling hands and a weary heart if you must, but just start. God honors the heart that seeks him, even when that heart is broken. And when you do, when you truly place God on the throne of your life, you will notice something begin to change, not just around you, but within you. Your appetite for meaningless things will die. Your thirst for truth will grow. Your vision will sharpen. Your peace will deepen. Your steps will steady, because when God becomes first, everything else must bow. Everything else must yield. Let this be the season you stop making excuses and start making God your priority. Don't say you're too busy. God gave you time. Don't say you're too tired. God is your strength. Don't say it's too late. God is outside of time. Don't say you're too broken. God specializes in making beauty from ashes. When God is first, you stop living like a victim of your circumstances and start walking like a vessel of divine purpose. You stop asking, why me, and start declaring, use me. Because putting God first reshapes your identity. You are no longer defined by what you've been through, but by who you belong to. No longer chained by the failures of your past, but empowered by the presence of God in your present. The moment God takes the throne of your life, your spirit rises above the dust of disappointment, and your vision breaks through the fog of confusion. You no longer live from a place of reaction. You live from a place of revelation. And hear this. Putting God first does not mean you will avoid hardship. It means you will not face it alone. It means the fire may come, but it will not consume you. The waters may rise, but they will not drown you. The winds may blow, but they will not uproot you. Because God, when He is first, becomes your refuge, your strength, your shield, your secret place. He becomes the reason you endure and the reason you overcome. You cannot experience the fullness of God's presence while living with divided loyalties. You cannot walk with God and flirt with rebellion. You cannot seek His guidance while ignoring His commandments. God is not a supporting character in your story. He is the author of it. And when you surrender your pen to Him, your life begins to tell a story that reflects divine wisdom, not human chaos. To put God first is to remove the mask, to stop pretending, stop hiding, stop performing. It is to bring your full self, broken, wounded, unsure, to the one who already knows and still calls you. It is to stop living by sight and start walking by trust. Because trust is not based on what you see. Trust is rooted in who God is. Trust says, even when I don't understand the way, I will walk it because God is the one leading me. Putting God first requires honesty. Brutal honesty. You must ask yourself, who really governs my decisions? Is it convenience? Is it comfort? Is it fear? Is it reputation? Or is it the will of God? Because you cannot walk in obedience to God while living in submission to fear. Fear will tell you to settle. Fear will tell you to stay silent. Fear will tell you that surrender is weakness. But putting God first means you rise above the voice of fear and walk in the power of faith. You want a stable life? Build it on the truth of God, not on emotions that shift like sand, not on culture that bends with the wind, not on people whose loyalty comes and goes, but on God who remains the same, yesterday, today, and forever. The unchanging, unmatched, unlimited God who calls you higher, draws you deeper, and leads you further than you can ever take yourself. This is not a call to lukewarm living. This is not an invitation to part-time faith. This is a summons to full surrender. God does not ask for pieces. He commands the whole. Your thoughts, your time, your energy, your heart, your desires, your fears, your goals, your grief, your joy, all of it. Lay it before God and say, take it, shape it, use it, align it with your will. That is what it means to put God first. Not to invite Him into your plans, but to abandon your plans and trust His. And some of you have walked long roads of disappointment. You've tried to do it all your own way. You've leaned on your own strength, your own understanding, your own strategy. But where has it brought you? Exhausted, confused, empty. Because a life without God at the center is a life destined to collapse under pressure. But the moment you reorder your priorities, when God becomes first, everything changes. Your mind finds clarity, your spirit finds strength, your home finds peace, your direction becomes clear, because God is not the author of confusion. He is the giver of wisdom. He is not the promoter of chaos. He is the master of order. And when your life is ordered with God at the head, you begin to walk in divine rhythm, no longer stumbling in the dark, but stepping forward with confidence. Let me tell you something. The world won't. The life of true power is not found in control. It's found in surrender. The world says, take charge, but God says, submit. The world says, follow your heart, but God says, guard it. The world says, live for yourself, but God says, deny yourself and live for me. And only one of those voices leads to life. And now let this be written in fire upon your soul. You cannot claim to honor God while exalting your ego. To truly put God first is to dethrone self. It is to crucify your pride, humble your ambitions, and bring your stubborn will into complete submission before the Almighty. This is not a casual nod to the heavens. It is a soul-deep realignment of everything you are and everything you do. Because until you remove yourself from the center, God cannot take his rightful place there. And as long as you remain the master of your own life, you will continue to reap the fruit of confusion, frustration, and spiritual dryness. You must understand, God does not compete with your distractions. He does not fight for your attention. He is sovereign, holy, exalted, far above all creation. He waits to be honored, not squeezed into your leftover minutes or called upon only when trouble comes. He is not your emergency plan. He is the plan. He is not your final resort. He is your only source. And the moment you begin to live like that, your life will shift from survival to significance, from wandering to walking in divine direction. To put God first is to live with reverence. And reverence is not just about words. It is a posture of the heart. It is found in how you speak, how you think, how you treat others when no one is watching. Reverence is when you open your day by acknowledging God, not your to-do list. Reverence is when you pause before decisions and seek his wisdom, not your own understanding. Reverence is when you refuse to compromise even when it would be easier because you fear displeasing God more than losing the approval of man. The soul that places God first becomes untouchable by darkness, not because it is immune to pain, but because it is protected by presence. When God is your priority, his protection becomes your covering. His favor becomes your shield. His power becomes your strength. And even when you walk through valleys of hardship, you do not crumble because your confidence is not in circumstances. It is anchored in the one who holds all things in his hands. Many of you have been praying for breakthrough, for clarity, for healing, for doors to open. But let me ask you this with love and fire in my voice. Have you truly put God first? Or have you just expected him to bless your plans while you continue to live on your terms? You cannot unlock the fullness of divine power while keeping one foot in your own will. You must surrender both feet to the path God chooses. That is where the supernatural begins. Let me speak plainly. Putting God first will expose your idols. It will reveal the areas of your life that you've tried to hide from the light. It will test your allegiance. It will shake every false foundation you've built upon. But praise be to God, for he does not destroy you to shame you. He exposes you to restore you. The discomfort is the beginning of cleansing. The conviction is the start of transformation. And the moment you say, God, strip me of everything that has taken your place, that is the moment heaven begins to build you again. You cannot walk in divine favor while living with a divided heart. You must make a clean break from the things that have entangled you, whether it be toxic relationships, secret sin, misplaced priorities, or unhealthy attachments. If it competes with God, it must go. This is not about being extreme. This is about being obedient. Because obedience is not about convenience. It is about covenant. And when you honor God above all, he will honor you before all. Putting God first does not mean life becomes easier. It means life becomes ordered. Chaos may still swirl around you, but you will not be shaken. Temptations may still knock, but they will not overtake you. The noise of the world may still shout, but your ears will be tuned to a higher voice. Because when God is first, everything else is filtered through his truth. And truth becomes your compass, not culture. Conviction becomes your anchor, not opinion. Faith becomes your fuel, not fear. There are some of you who feel spiritually stuck, like you're running in place, praying but not hearing, seeking but not finding. And I tell you this not to condemn, but to awaken. Revisit the throne of your heart. Who or what have you placed above God? Is it your career, your reputation, your comfort, your pain? Whatever it is, if it comes before God, it has become your master, and it must be cast down. You know he demands the whole, not because he is cruel, but because he knows that nothing less than full surrender will ever truly satisfy you. Half-hearted devotion leads to a half-filled soul. A half-filled soul is a dangerous place to live. It leaves you vulnerable, unstable, easily deceived. But a life that is poured out before God is a life that overflows with strength, clarity, and purpose. Apply with you. Realign your focus. Rebuild your altar. Let your life be a living testimony that proclaims God is first now and forever. Let that decision govern how you speak, how you spend, how you serve, how you sacrifice. Let it guide what you watch, what you listen to, what you pursue, what you release. Every detail of your life matters to God. There is no area too small for his direction, and no area too large for his power. The more you place God first, the more you will become like him. Steadfast, wise, patient, bold, and compassionate. You will no longer move by impulse, but by instruction. No longer live by survival, but by vision. No longer wrestle with identity, because your identity will be rooted in the one who never changes. This is not just a motivational idea. This is a divine order. Life does not work as it was meant to unless God is at the head. Families crumble when God is removed. Societies decay when God is forgotten. Souls wither when God is replaced. And the longer you wait to put him back in his rightful place, the deeper the damage becomes. But praise be to the Almighty, for he restores what we surrender. He revives what we place back in his hands. And now I ask you, what will it take for you to stop living on the edge of full surrender? How long will you keep dipping your toes into the waters of faith, afraid to dive all the way in? How long will you keep God waiting outside the door of your heart while you entertain lesser things within? Every day you delay is a day you miss out on the depth, the power, the beauty of what it means to walk completely aligned with the will of God. What it means to walk completely aligned with the will of God. Your life was not meant for fragments of obedience. It was designed to burn as a whole offering upon the altar of divine purpose. There comes a point where words are no longer enough, where lip service must become life surrender, where the declaration that God is first must be echoed in the secret corners of your choices, not just the public stage of your speech. This is not about impressing people. It's about being found faithful by the one who sees in secret. Because when God looks upon your life, he doesn't weigh your outward actions alone. He searches the motives of your heart. He knows what you treasure. He knows what you fear. He knows where your loyalty lies. And he calls you not to shallow belief, but to deep conviction. Putting God first means you stop compartmentalizing your faith. It means there is no separation between the sacred and the secular. Every room of your heart becomes his. Every task becomes worship. Every breath becomes a prayer. Whether in the workplace or the quiet of your home, you carry the awareness of God. You don't leave him behind in a house of worship. You take him with you everywhere because he is not confined to buildings. He is present in the boardroom, in the hospital, in the classroom, in the streets, in your suffering, in your triumph. And when God is first, you become conscious of his presence at all times. Not in fear, but in reverent awe. And putting God first means you stop making decisions based on impulse, emotion, or opportunity. You begin to decide based on principle, prayer, and spiritual discernment. Not everything that looks good is from God. Not every open door is divinely appointed. Some doors are distractions dressed as destiny. Some opportunities are traps in disguise. But when God is first, you're not moved by what glitters. You're guided by what is grounded. You begin to test every option by asking, does this honor? Does this draw me closer to him or pull me away? You cannot put God first while continuing to feed habits that numb your spirit. You cannot seek him while willingly dwelling in atmospheres that the heart that longs to truly place God first must walk away from whatever competes with his presence. It is not legalism. It is loyalty. It is not restriction. It is reverence. It is not fear. It is faith that says, God, you are worth more to me than any fleeting pleasure or shallow comfort. When God becomes the foundation of your thoughts begin to carry weight. Your words carry power, not just noise. Your goals stretch beyond the temporary. They begin to reflect eternity. Because when God is first, your life becomes a vessel of eternal impact. You no longer live just to exist. You live to fulfill a divine assignment. You no longer chase pleasure. You pursue purpose. There is a weight to putting God first. Yes, but it is a glorious weight, a beautiful burden, a sacred responsibility, and with it comes favor, clarity, and a peace that does not bend to circumstance. When God is first, you don't just endure life. You conquer it with courage because you know that God goes before you, stands behind you, and surrounds you on every side. You don't fear the future because the one who holds the future holds your hand. And don't be deceived by the illusion of balance that the world offers. The world will say, just give a little time to everything. But the soul that puts God first knows that he is not to be balanced with other things. He is to be above all things. You don't balance light and darkness. You don't balance truth and lie. You don't balance obedience and rebellion. You choose, you submit, you surrender. When God is first, you stop chasing after validation from others because the approval of man becomes irrelevant when your life is aligned with the will of God. Your peace is not anchored in likes or applause. It is rooted in obedience. You are no longer desperate for affirmation because your worth is anchored in the one who formed you from the dust, breathed into you, and called you to rise. Some of you have been asking, where is God? Why don't I feel his power? Why don't I see his hand? And I tell you with love and with urgency, it is not that God has disappeared. It is that something else has taken first place. And the moment you return God to the throne of your life, the floodgates of his power will be released once again. Your heart will beat with clarity. Your spirit will feel light. Your mind will find focus. Because God does not dwell in divided temples. He abides where he is honored, obeyed, and enthroned. So now is the time, not next week, not when things settle down, not when you feel more ready. Now, right here in the middle of your questions, your confusion, your battles, make the shift, set the order, tear down the false altars, and build a new one. From that sacred place, let your life blaze like a living sacrifice, bold, steady, and without compromise. Don't wait until your spirit is drained. Don't wait until circumstances force you to the ground. Decide today to lift God to the highest place in your heart. Let the flame of your devotion shine stronger than the pull of temptation. Let your thirst for truth outweigh your craving for ease. Let your faithfulness to God rise above every earthly bond. Fix your gaze on eternity and let your heart resound with heaven's song. God, you are first in everything. My time, my strength, my ambitions, my fears, you are first. And when those words become more than a prayer, when they shape your daily reality, you will discover what it truly means to live. Not simply to breathe, not merely to survive, but to walk in divine strength, guided by his wisdom, upheld by his presence, and rooted in his purpose. This is the life you were destined for. A life that begins when God is no longer just a part of your days, but the very center, the crown, and the flame burning within. Place God first and never turn back. My friends, when the world grows cold, when the weight becomes unbearable, when the road ahead feels shadowed and uncertain, there is one truth that cannot be shaken. When you choose to trust God, He releases blessings you never saw coming. Hear me clearly. This is not theory, not some distant idea, not a vague notion. This is a divine law that guides the lives of those who walk by faith. When a heart lays down everything, fear, doubt, pride, and personal plans, and rests fully in God, heaven begins to move in ways no human mind could ever anticipate. God does not follow our timeline. He does not wait for us to achieve perfection. He does not bless by human logic or reward according to earthly schedules. He blesses in His own way. He blesses when the heart is truly surrendered. He blesses when pride is emptied out and trust fills the soul. God is watching for that moment when faith no longer depends on outcomes. When we stop trying to control every detail and we simply say, God, I trust you even if I don't understand. And that's when the unexpected happens. That's when miracles descend like rain on dry ground. That's when the doors you never knocked on begin to open. That's when the right people enter your life out of nowhere. That's when sickness turns to strength. When lack turns to provision. When confusion becomes clarity. God does not move according to man's predictions. He moves by divine appointment. And when you trust Him, you will find that His timing is perfect, His plans are greater, and His blessings are far beyond anything you could imagine. Some of you listening today are on the edge. You're tired, you've prayed, you've waited, you've been faithful, but you haven't seen the harvest yet. Let me speak directly to your spirit. Don't give up. Trust is not proven in the light. Trust is tested in the dark. God is not absent. He is watching your heart. And when that heart says, though everything is falling apart, I still believe, then God steps in, not just with what you want, but with what you never saw coming. There are blessings reserved for those who trust Him in the storm, not after the storm, in the storm. It's easy to trust God when the bank account is full, when your health is strong, when the applause of people surround you. But can you trust Him when you're alone? Can you trust Him when the bills are piling up and the healing hasn't come? Can you trust Him when every door you thought would open has slammed shut? Because when you trust God at rock bottom, you give Him room to build something unshakable. That's when you discover that what God builds doesn't need the approval of men. It doesn't need a crowd. It doesn't need a comitia. It just needs faith. Raw, stubborn, mountain-moving faith. And it's that kind of faith that brings blessings so divine, so precise, so personal that you know without a doubt it was only God. Look back over your life. How many times did the blessing come after you let go? How many times did God show up after you stopped trying to fix everything yourself? That job you didn't apply for. That friend who appeared in your darkest hour. That breakthrough that arrived the moment you said, God, I surrender. These aren't coincidences. They are confirmations that trusting God is never in vain. The world will try to tell you to calculate everything, to play it safe, to depend on what you can see. But the path of trust doesn't always look logical. It doesn't always feel safe. It often looks like stepping into nothing until God proves it was everything. That's when the supernatural collides with the natural. That's when the invisible hand of God reveals what was hidden all along. The blessing was always there waiting for your trust to unlock it. You may not see it today, you may not feel it, but God is working behind the scenes. While you're crying in silence, He's planning your restoration. While you're breaking under pressure, He's building your testimony. While you're praying in desperation, He's aligning the right people, the right time, the right door. And when that door opens, it will make sense why every other door was shut. When the blessing arrives, it will be tailor-made. It will fit your life, your heart, your calling. It won't be random. It will be divine. You must trust even when your emotions scream otherwise. Faith is not a feeling. It's easy. Trust says, God, I don't see the way, but I believe you are the way. I don't know how, but I believe you know. I don't understand, but I know you hold the plan. And that kind of faith attracts the supernatural. That kind of faith invites blessings that defy logic, that confuse your enemies, that silence your critic. Because when God blesses a life that trusted him in secret, he blesses it in such a way that no one can deny it was his hand alone. Don't wait to trust until things feel better. Trust now. Trust when it hurts. Trust when it's silent. Trust when your mind is racing and your strength is failing. Trust is an act of war against the lies of fear. Trust is saying, I will not be moved. And when God sees that kind of resolve, he responds not with small comfort, but with unexpected abundance. Some of you have been living in survival mode too long. You've been begging for crumbs when God has a feast prepared. But he cannot give the feast to those who only trust when they can taste. He gives it to those who trust when their mouth is dry and empty. That's where the oil begins to flow. That's where the jar of flour never runs out. That's where barren fields bloom and rivers run through deserts. What you think is the end might just be the beginning. What you think is a breakdown could be a setup for a breakthrough. But you must decide today, will you trust God completely? Not half-heartedly, not with conditions, but with a heart that says, even if I lose it all, I will not lose my faith. God has a history of showing up after the impossible. He waits until the Red Sea is in front of you and Pharaoh is behind you. He waits until the lions surround you and there's no escape. He waits until the fire is heated 7 times hotter. Why? Because when he delivers, he wants it to be clear. It was only him. Trust turns ordinary moments into divine appointments. A simple act of obedience can unlock a destiny. A single prayer of surrender can trigger an avalanche of favor. You don't need to manipulate your future. You don't need to chase blessing. You need to trust the one who holds them all in his hands. When you trust God, you begin to walk with peace, even when chaos surrounds you. You begin to sleep when others panic. You begin to speak hope when others spread fear. And in that atmosphere of faith, blessings begin to arrive. Some seen, some unseen, but all perfectly timed. Trust is not weakness. It is the highest form of spiritual strength. It is saying, God, you are enough, even if I have nothing else. And when you live like that, blessings will chase you down. They will find you in unexpected places. They will overtake you without warning, not because you deserve them, but because you dared to believe when it was hardest to believe. This is the call today. Not to more effort, not to more anxiety, but to deeper trust. God is not asking for your strategy. He's asking for your surrender. He's not asking for your plan. He's asking for your faith. He's not waiting for you to be perfect. He's waiting for you to be fully his. The moment you let go of what you thought life should look like, God will begin to show you what it was always meant to be. The moment you stop holding back, he will start pouring out. And the blessings that come, oh, they won't be small. They will be pressed down, shaken together, and running over. They will come when you least expect it. They will come through people you never imagined. They will come in ways that exceed your limited understanding. Because that's how God works. He doesn't just meet your needs, he exceeds them. He doesn't just fill your cup, he overflows it. He doesn't just answer your prayers, he answers them in ways that leave you speechless. But all of it hinges on one thing, your trust. If you can trust him when the road is rough, if you can trust him when the heavens are silent, if you can trust him when nothing seems to change, then get ready, because the blessing that's coming will not be ordinary. It will be unexpected. It will be unmistakable. It will be God. And when it comes, you'll look back and say, now I understand. Now I see why I had to wait. Now I see why every detour, every delay, every disappointment was necessary. It wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Trust God. Trust him when it hurts. Trust him when it's hard. Trust him when it's hard. Trust him when you have every reason to doubt. Because when you trust him, he doesn't just come through. He comes through better than you prayed, bigger than you dreamed, and sooner than you expect. Let me tell you this, and let it thunder in your spirit. What you think is a delay is not a denial. It's divine design. When you walk by trust, you no longer judge your life by what you see in front of you. You judge it by the faithfulness of the one who holds the universe in his hands. God is never in a hurry, and he is never late. He is not pressured by time, not moved by public opinion, and not intimidated by your circumstances. He moves with purpose, and he rewards those who trust without seeing. There are blessings that cannot be rushed because they are not ordinary blessings. They are blessings that require preparation, maturity, endurance, and purification. You may be asking, why is it taking so long? But the better question is, what is God building inside me while I wait? Because when God blesses, he blesses in a way that you are not only ready to receive it, but able to sustain it. Trust sharpens your character. Trust kills your pride. Trust breaks your dependence on people. Trust makes your heart strong enough to carry what God is about to release in your life. You may feel like you're walking through fire, but let me declare this over your life. You are not being burned. You are being refined. The heat you feel is not meant to destroy you, but to shape you. It's in the furnace of trust where doubt dies and divine confidence is born. It's in the silence of waiting where the deepest revelations rise. And it is in the unseen places where God is forming the foundation for blessings you're not even praying for yet. You must come to a place where your trust in God is not based on outcomes, but rooted in who he is. Because when you truly know God, when you know he is righteous, when you know he is merciful, you stop panicking when life doesn't make sense. You stop complaining when people reject you. You stop running after what God is trying to remove. You stand still and you trust. Some of the greatest blessings God will ever give you are not material, they are internal. Peace in the storm, strength in your weakness, clarity in your confusion, wisdom in your decisions. These are the kinds of blessings that come when you let go of the outcome and hold on to the presence of God. And once your heart is anchored in him alone, then and only then do the external blessings begin to fall into place. Listen to this carefully. Trusting God is not passive. It is the most powerful act of spiritual warfare. While others worry, you worship. While others stress, you stand still. While others chase answers, you sit at the feet of the one who holds them. That kind of trust is not weak. It's unstoppable. It threatens darkness. It frustrates the plans of the wicked. It attracts the favor of God like a magnet. God has never failed a single soul who put their full trust in him. The old paths are filled with stories of those who dared to believe when nothing made sense and saw the hand of God move in extraordinary ways. He lifted the humble, honored the faithful, and exalted the ones the world forgot. Do not think he will treat you any differently. He is the same. He sees you, he hears you, he knows exactly what you need, even the things you haven't had the courage to pray for. There will come a time, yes, it will come, when the very thing you once cried about will become the testimony that others marvel at. The door you once begged to open, the peace you once longed for, the provision you once searched for, all of it will come, not because you chased it, but because you trusted God enough to let him bring it in his way. You may be surrounded by people who do not understand your faith. They may say, "Why don't you just give up? Why are you still waiting? Why do you keep trusting when nothing is changing?" Let your life be the answer. No, let your endurance be the sermon. Let your peace be the evidence. And when the blessing arrives, when the breakthrough comes, they will have no choice but to admit God was with you all along. Some blessings are not delayed because of sin or disobedience. They are delayed because they are so big, so heavy, so transformative that God must prepare every layer of your life before he releases them. He must position the right people. He must align the right moment. He must prepare your heart so that the blessing doesn't become your burden. And when it finally arrives, it won't be something you have to strive for. It will be something you simply step into. Do not curse your waiting season. Do not despise your quiet time. That is where the greatest spiritual growth happens. It's where God teaches you how to rely on him and not on the applause of men. It's where he detoxes your spirit from the expectations of this world and fills you with divine perspective. And when the time is right, he will elevate you, not because you earned it, but because you trusted him through it all. Every time you choose to trust, instead of panic, you are planting seeds in the unseen realm. Seeds of favor, seeds of joy, seeds of wisdom. And one day when the season turns, those seeds will burst forth as a harvest so bountiful it will silence every lie spoken against you. It will shut the mouths of those who doubted you. It will glorify God in ways that no sermon ever could. And you must get this truth deep into your bones. You don't need to see the blessing to believe it's coming. Faith is not sight. Faith is assurance in the unseen. Trust is believing that what God said is already done. Even if your eyes haven't caught up with it yet, speak it before you see it. Thank him before it shows up. Walk like it's already yours. Because in the heavenly realm, it already is. The enemy wants you to quit right before the blessing breaks through. He wants you to question God, to fall into despair, to doubt everything you've stood on. But don't give him that satisfaction. Instead, dig your heels into the ground of faith and declare with unwavering conviction, "I will trust God no matter what." That kind of declaration shakes the atmosphere. It invites the hand of God to move in ways the natural effort never could. God responds to faith, not fear, not anxiety, not manipulation, faith. And the most powerful form of faith is trust. Quiet, steady, unshakable trust. Trust that says, even if it costs me everything, I will not stop believing. Trust that endures when nothing makes sense. When you walk in that level of trust, you become untouchable. Not because life stops being hard, but because your spirit is rooted so deeply in God that no storm can uproot you. That's when you begin to live in a realm above the noise, above the chaos, above the fear. That's when unexpected blessings begin to pour out. Not just to elevate your life, but to glorify the one who never stopped working behind the scenes. And the chapter he's about to write, the one that comes after the trust, after the tears, after the waiting, will be more beautiful than anything you ever imagine. Because when God blesses those who trust him, he does it in a way that reveals his glory, magnifies his mercy, and proves once and for all that trusting God is the greatest decision a human soul can ever make. You must understand deeply and fully that when you trust God, you are aligning your life with the rhythm of divine power. You are no longer reacting to circumstances. You are responding to purpose. Trusting God is not a weakness. It is a force, a divine force that moves mountains, parts seas, opens barren wombs, silences storms, and lifts the lowly from the dust. When you trust God, you are not placing your life in the hands of chance. You are placing it in the hands of the one who sees the end from the beginning and makes no mistakes. Every trial you face is not to destroy you. It is to awaken something in you. Trust turns your pain into power, your delay into development, your detour into destiny. When the people around you stop believing, when friends walk away, when family turns cold, when your plans collapse and your dreams seem distant, that is when your trust must rise like fire in your bones. Because when everything external crumbles, your internal foundation in God becomes your anchor. And it is in that silent, hidden place where the deepest trust is born. Do not measure your progress by what you can see. Measure it by how deeply you trust God when nothing is visible, because sometimes God hides the blessing to grow your dependence. Sometimes he withdraws the visible so he can cultivate the invisible. And when you prove that you will walk with him even in the fog, even in the fire, even in the silence, that's when the heavens begin to open and the unexpected blessings are released. God does not pour out blessings because of your status, your popularity, your wealth, or your skills. He blesses according to the condition of your heart, a heart that chooses to trust even when the future is unclear, a heart that honors him in the unseen moments, a heart that remains steady when life falls out of order, a heart that declares, God, whether you give or take away, I will still trust you. That kind of heart shakes the heavens. That kind of heart is met with favor, not because of striving, but because of surrender. Often the greatest barrier to blessing is not the opposition around you, but the urge within you to stay in control. To trust God is to release your grip on how you think things should unfold. It is to step aside and let him compose the story. And hear me, whatever God pens with his own hand will always be more beautiful, more powerful, and more complete than anything you could ever write yourself. You may be walking through a season of silence. You prayed, you've waited, and still nothing seems to move. But do not let the silence make you question his presence. Trust is not built in the noise. It is forged in stillness. It is in the silent seasons that God examines your motives, purifies your intentions, and removes the clutter from your soul. And when your trust matures, when it is no longer dependent on blessings, but rooted in loyalty, then God unleashes favor that no man can stop. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You don't need applause. You don't need validation from people who do not walk your walk. You need to believe in the voice of God. You need to trust that if he said it, he will do it. If he closed the door, it was protection. If he delayed the plan, it was preparation. If he shifted the path, it was direction. God wastes nothing. Not your tears, not your time, not your trial. Everything is being woven into a blessing that will arrive exactly when your heart is ready to carry it. And when it arrives, you won't have to manipulate it. You won't have to chase it. You won't have to fear losing it. Because what God gives in response to trust comes with peace. It comes with stability. It comes with spiritual depth. It doesn't drain you. It fills you. It doesn't confuse you. It clarifies everything. The blessing of God never adds sorrow. It only multiplies meaning. Some of you are being tested right now. Not because you've done something wrong, but because God is stretching your faith. He is preparing your capacity. He is enlarging your territory. Not physically, but spiritually. You are being called to trust at a level you've never trusted before. And that means releasing the familiar, letting go of what you've always leaned on, abandoning the safety of your own understanding, and stepping into the unknown with nothing but faith in God. That is where the miracle happens. That is where the blessing comes. Not through your strength, but through your surrender. Not through striving, but through stillness. Not through control, but through confidence in the one who controls everything. Let them question you. Let them mock your faith. Let them call you foolish for still believing. Because the very thing they ridicule today will become the evidence of God's glory tomorrow. And when the blessing comes, and it will come in such a way that even your enemies will say, surely God was with this one. Do not let the pressure of the moment rob you of your trust. Do not let the storm convince you that the ship will sink. The winds may blow, the waves may rise, but when your trust is anchored in God, you are unsinkable. You may bend, but you will not break. You may fall, but you will rise again, because God does not abandon those who trust in him. He upholds them. He strengthens them. He lifts them at the appointed time. And when that time comes, it will feel like the floodgates of favor have been opened. Doors you never knocked on will swing wide. People you never thought would help you will be moved to bless you. Ideas, resources, opportunities will appear. Not because you chased them, but because you trusted the one who controls them all. This is not wishful thinking. This is divine law. This is spiritual truth. Trust unlocks what anxiety shuts down. Trust activates what fear delays. Trust draws down blessings that cannot be earned, only received. So I ask you today, how deeply will you trust God? Will you trust Him when the answer is not yet? Will you trust Him when you have no evidence, only assurance? Will you trust Him when the world is watching and you have no results to show, but your spirit says, still I believe, because that is where true power lives. Not in comfort, but in conviction. Not in clarity, but in commitment. Not in the outcome, but in the obedience of faith. In the moment you make that decision, all of heaven leans in. The hand of God moves, and the blessing that was once far off begins its journey toward you. Not because of who you are, but because of who He is. There is a sacred kind of strength that rises within a person when they trust God beyond understanding. Not surface-level belief, not conditional obedience, but wholehearted, soul-deep, uncompromising trust. The kind that holds steady when logic breaks. The kind that walks forward when eyes cannot see. The kind that chooses to say, God is enough, even when nothing else makes sense. That trust is not born in comfort. It is born in the wilderness. It is forged in waiting rooms, in tears, soap pillows, in silent nights where your only companion is faith. Let me speak to the one who feels forgotten. God has not forgotten you. The silence is not absence. The stillness is not abandonment. When you trust God, your life becomes part of a larger holy strategy, one that is often hidden from the natural eye. God works behind veils, behind closed doors, behind the curtain of time. And when He reveals His plan, you will see that every moment of pain had a purpose. Every detour held direction, and every delay was divine. Trust is not something you turn on when it's easy and off when it's hard. It is the steady posture of the soul that declares, my life is not in my hands, it is in God's hands. And when your soul is positioned in that kind of faith, you will begin to see God's fingerprints everywhere, in the small things, in the quiet confirmations, in the people you meet by coincidence. Trust opens your spiritual eyes to see that nothing is random when you walk with God. There are blessings that come disguised as loss. There are breakthroughs that begin with closed doors. There are elevations that start in low places. But only those who trust God long enough will live to see the beauty unfold. Because blessings from God are not just about abundance, they are about alignment. God doesn't give you what you beg for. He gives you what your soul truly needs. And sometimes that means stripping away the distractions so you can receive the real blessing. Clarity, peace, strength, purpose. Let me tell you plainly, the longer you walk with God, the less impressed you become with the world. You no longer chase what they chase. You no longer envy what they envy. You no longer fear what they fear, because your eyes are fixed on something higher. You begin to realize that trusting God is not just about receiving blessings. It's about becoming someone who cannot be shaken. Someone whose peace is rooted in truth. Someone whose joy is untouched by circumstance. Someone whose identity is grounded in the reality that God alone is enough. You see, when you truly trust God, your whole posture changes. You stop explaining yourself to everyone. You stop forcing outcomes. You stop begging people to see your worth. Why? Because your confidence no longer comes from people. It comes from knowing that the one who formed you, who breathed life into your lungs, who wrote your name in his book, has already prepared your portion. What is meant for you will come, not a second late, not a breath too soon. And when it comes, it will fit your life, your growth, your purpose. There's a quiet dignity in trusting God. You don't need to broadcast it. You don't need to prove it, but it radiates from you. It shows up in the way you handle pressure, in the way you wait with patience, in the way you endure criticism without lashing back. Trust makes you immovable in a shaking world. And that kind of stability is a blessing all by itself. Let me speak to your heart again. Stop striving. Stop rushing. Stop trying to make it all happen on your own. Rest in the truth that God knows the way. Rest in the assurance that He is working while you wait. Rest in the knowledge that His delay is not denial. It is divine alignment. Trust is not sitting idle. It is standing alert. It is watching, ready, praying, praising, not because everything is perfect, but because you know the one who is perfect in every way. And here's what no one tells you. Trusting God will cost you something. It may cost you your comfort. It may cost you approval. It may cost you your own plans. But what you gain will far outweigh the loss. You will gain divine wisdom. You will gain strength that doesn't break. You will gain peace that guards your heart like a fortress. And eventually you will gain blessings that make you drop to your knees and weep. Not because you earned them, but because God was faithful to give them. When the blessing comes, it will not come through your effort alone. It will not come because you had everything figured out. It will come because you were found faithful. Because you dared to believe when others gave up. Because you chose to trust when everything screamed at you to doubt. And that kind of trust attracts blessings that cannot be measured with money or recognition. They are blessings that mark your soul and multiply through generation. Do not be surprised when God's blessings do not look like what you expected. God often answers in ways that stretch us, not spoil us. He blesses us not just to comfort, but to commission, to call us higher, to awaken purpose, to refine character. And when you trust Him, you begin to see the difference between what is good and what is God. Because not everything good is from God. But everything from God is always good. Even if it's hard, even if it takes time, even if it first comes in the form of challenge, you must make a decision today to live from a deeper well, a well of trust, a well of surrender, a well that doesn't dry up in drought, that doesn't crack under pressure. Because when your trust runs deep, it becomes your supply in every season. It becomes your answer when the questions rise. It becomes your light when the night is long. Let your trust be louder than your worry. Let your trust be stronger than your fear. Let your trust be the lens through which you see the world, not through the opinions of others, not through the limits of your past, not through the noise of today's chaos, but through the eternal truth that God is your source, your guide, your refuge, your reward. And when that trust is fully alive in you, watch what happens. Watch how peace settles on your spirit. Watch how wisdom begins to flow from your mouth. Watch how doors begin to open, not because you forced them, but because your trust created space for God to move. This is not blind faith. This is bold, mature, tested faith. The kind that declares, I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I trust the one who holds tomorrow. The kind that says, I may not see the harvest yet, but I will not stop sowing. The kind that walks into the unknown and calls it home, not because it is easy, but because God is there. The world will never understand this kind of faith. It is not logical. It is not natural. It is spiritual. It is supernatural. It is anchored not in what changes, but in the one who never does. That is the power of trust. That is the reward of surrender. And that is the path to unexpected blessings. Blessings not born from effort, but from alignment with the will and wisdom of God. When you trust God truly and completely, you are not just waiting for a miracle. You become the dwelling place of miracles. The trust you carry becomes a signal in the unseen world. A call to heaven that says, here stands one who still believes. And when that kind of trust is present, even the impossible begins to tremble. For the one who created time, matter, and destiny is drawn to the soul that clings to him with unwavering faith. The power of trust is not just in what it receives, it's in what it declares. It is the voice of the heart that says, even if the winds roar and the mountains fall, I will not be moved. Even if every plan fails, I will not turn my face from. This is not the weak whisper of blind hope. It is the roar of a soul anchored in the eternal. Trust is not passive submission. It is active defiance against the doubts that seek to dismantle you. It is rebellion against fear. It is the sword that cuts through confusion and declares that God is still on the throne. Let me say this clearly. If you want to live a life that carries the weight of divine blessing, you must be willing to walk through seasons that demand nothing less than full surrender, because trust is not formed in moments of comfort. It is carved in the valleys of discomfort. It is in those places where everything familiar is stripped away, where your intellect is exhausted, where your options are gone. That's where real trust is born. And it is that trust which invites blessings that cannot be explained, only experienced. So many spend their lives chasing blessings, unaware that blessings are drawn to trust like rivers flow to gravity. When you walk with a heart surrendered to God, blessings chase you down. They don't need to be forced. They don't need to be manipulated. They come uninvited yet unmistakable, because you are walking under the open favor of the Almighty. And what God sends, no one can block. What God ordains, no one can cancel. What God declares over your life will stand, even if all of hell opposes it. But hear this, with all the weight it deserves. The deeper the trust, the greater the transformation. Trust does not only change your circumstances, it changes you. It rewires your soul to think differently, speak differently, respond differently. It turns fear into confidence, panic into peace, chaos into clarity. When you trust God, you stop reacting to pressure and start responding with purpose. You stop fearing the unknown and start walking in spiritual authority, knowing that nothing touches your life without passing through the hands of God. Even the trials you face, even the pain that pierces your heart, God can use it all as preparation. He wastes nothing. Not your tears, not your setbacks, not your waiting. Trusting God means believing that even your suffering is not meaningless. that even your losses can be turned into ladders that lift you higher, that even what was meant for your harm can become the very platform for your blessing. But that only happens when trust takes root deep within you. You must understand, God does not bless based on performance. He blesses based on posture. The posture of your heart matters more than the perfection of your behavior. A heart that is bowed in trust. A heart that says, I will not let go of you, God. Even if I don't understand, will always be lifted in due time. God responds to that kind of surrender with a power that no effort can imitate. And when he moves with precision, wisdom, and perfect timing. Some of you have been trying to make something happen that only God can do. You've been exhausting your strength trying to open a door that only responds to divine keys. And the key is trust, not talent, not strategy, not connections. Trust. 'Cause the door God opens through trust will lead to blessings that are not seasonal. They are sustainable. They don't just elevate you, they transform you. There will be moments when the waiting gets long, when the silence feels like abandonment, when you question whether God still hears. But that's when your trust must speak louder than your feelings. Trust is not the absence of questions. It is the refusal to let questions shake your faith. It is the choice to believe that even when God is silent, he is still speaking through your circumstances. That even when he is unseen, he is still working in ways you cannot perceive. And when the blessing comes, because it will humble you. It will remind you that it wasn't your wisdom, your willpower, or your perfection that brought it to pass. It was trust. Simple, steadfast, storm-tested trust. And you'll fall to your knees, not just in gratitude for the blessing, but in awe of the God who proved faithful once again. The world may never understand the power of trusting God because the world chases control, but you are not called to live by the world's rhythm. You are called to live by trust. That trust will make you look foolish at times. It will separate you from those who settle for less. It will call you to paths few are willing to walk. But it will also place you under the covering of divine protection. It will set you apart for favor that cannot be duplicated or explained. When you trust God, you begin to carry a peace that doesn't make sense. You stop wrestling with outcomes. You stop chasing people. You stop fearing failure because you know your life is not in your own hands. It is in the hands of the one who created stars, splits seas, calms winds, and lifts those who walk humbly before him. So now is the moment to decide. Will you keep trusting only when things make sense? Or will you walk boldly into the unknown, knowing that the God who brought you this far has not brought you here to abandon you? Will you trust him when the answers are delayed? Will you trust him when the crowd walks away? Will you trust him when your own strength is gone? If you can truly say yes, if with every fiber of your being you can proclaim, God, I trust you, not just with words but with your whole life, then get ready. Get ready for divine surprises. Get ready for doors to open. Get ready for a peace that defies human logic. Get ready for blessings you never earned by labor, but welcome through faith. It's not because of who you are, but because of who God is. And that, my friend, is the most powerful truth you could ever hold. Placing your trust in God doesn't make the road easier. It makes it eternal. It lifts you out of fear's grip and plants you in the soil of assurance. It carries you from drifting without direction to walking with divine wisdom. It turns every ordinary day into a sacred encounter. So stand strong, declare with courage, walk with humility, and trust without holding back. Because those who put their hope in God will never be abandoned. And when the blessings come, they won't just transform your life. They will stand as a living testimony that God remains faithful to all who believe. When the winds around your life begin to change, when the ground beneath you starts to shake, and when it feels as if everything is being stripped away, do not fear, do not retreat, do not collapse beneath the weight. For in that very shaking, in that very moment, God is often preparing to release something extraordinary, something you could never achieve on your own, something you wouldn't even know how to ask for, something so carefully woven by heaven that only God could bring it to pass. There comes a moment when the noise rises, not because God has abandoned you, but because he is about to silence every enemy around you. Before God pours something weighty into your life, he always makes space, and making space can feel like loss, like uncertainty, like delay. But don't be deceived. That delay is divine. That uncertainty is God's construction. That silence you hear is his voice clearing the way, stripping away distractions, and setting the atmosphere for a powerful release. God never delivers great things into crowded places. When God is about to give you something big, he clears the room. He empties your hands. He closes some door. He removes people who once made you feel safe. And it can feel like abandonment, but it's not. It's God saying, you're not going to need them where I'm taking you. Or you see, what God has for you cannot be diluted, cannot be shared, and cannot be sabotaged by those who don't belong. So when things start falling apart, praise God. When your plans collapse and nothing makes sense, praise God. That's how you'll know. That's the sign. That's the moment you should prepare your heart, because something big is coming. God never announces his blessings with fireworks. He announces them with a test. A test of faith, a test of patience, a test of surrender. Right before the breakthrough, God will ask you to walk by faith and not by sight. He will ask you to trust him in the dark. He will ask you to believe in what you cannot see. Why? Because what he is about to give you is not ordinary. It is not natural. It is not humanly possible. It is divine. It is supernatural. It is beyond anything you could have imagined. And before he gives you that thing, he tests your foundation. He tests your posture. He tests your motives. He watches to see if your heart is still pure, if your hands are still clean, if your focus is still on him and not on the blessing. Because the size of your preparation determines the size of your reward. God doesn't give diamonds to those who can't carry pressure. He doesn't give mountains to those who can't handle the climb. He doesn't give harvest to those who slept through the planting season. So when God is about to give you something big, he will first make you uncomfortable. That discomfort is not punishment. It is preparation. You'll know it's God when everything in your spirit begins to shift. Your appetite for old habits will dry up. Your tolerance for gossip, mediocrity, and small thinking will disappear. People around you won't understand why you're suddenly so quiet, why you're not picking up their calls, why you've stopped explaining yourself. But you're not isolating, you're incubating. You're not running, You're resting in God. You are shedding the old to make room for the new. And when God sees you willing to let go of what you want to receive, what He wills, that's when the floodgates open. That's when the blessing finds you. But here's the truth. Before it gets better, it might get worse, because elevation requires separation. The higher you go, the fewer people can breathe at your level. The more God reveals, the more He conceals you. God hides His greatest gifts before He releases them. Think of it. The seed must be buried before it can bloom. The pearl is hidden inside the shell. The gold is found deep underground. And so too the blessing God is about to give you. It is hidden, but not from you. It's hidden for you. Reserved, preserved, and it's being formed in the fire of trials you didn't ask for, in the silence you didn't understand, in the pain you didn't deserve. When you begin to feel like quitting, hold on. When nothing you try seems to work, stand still. When the pressure mounts and you feel like screaming, lift your hands instead. Because that resistance, that delay, that crushing weight is not a sign that God has forgotten you. It's the proof that God is forming you. He is stretching your capacity so that when He pours the blessing, you won't break. You'll carry it. You'll sustain it. You'll protect it. There is a holy weight coming into your life, and God cannot release it into a reckless spirit. He will not give sacred things to careless hand. That's why the struggle has been so long. That's why the battle has been so fierce. That's why you've been misunderstood, rejected, overlooked. God was hiding you. God was shielding you. God was setting you apart, because what He's about to do through you requires isolation. It requires obedience. It requires a faith that is unshaken by circumstances. When God is about to give you something big, you'll notice that your spirit becomes sensitive. Things that used to entertain you will no longer satisfy you. You will hunger for quiet. You will crave prayer. You will desire the presence of God more than the approval of people. That is not coincidence. It is confirmation. It is God drawing you close, whispering to your soul, "Get ready. I'm about to do something you never saw coming. Your nuke prevented." And don't look for validation. Don't wait for others to understand what God didn't give them the vision. God gave it to you. Stop asking people for permission to walk in a promise they didn't receive. They weren't in the room when God whispered it. They didn't see what you saw. They don't carry what you carry. And so they cannot grasp the magnitude of what is coming. But you know deep in your spirit, you feel it every time you pray. You sense it every time you're quiet. You can't explain it, but it's there. That weight, that expectation, that unshakable belief that something is shifting, and it is. You're not crazy. You're not desperate. You're not overthinking. You are discerning. You are awake. You are in tune with the move of God. And while others are distracted by the noise of the world, you are listening for the whisper of heaven. And God is faithful. God is not a man that He should lie. If He spoke it, He will perform it. If He showed it to you, He will bring it to pass. Not on your schedule, not on your terms, but in His perfect timing. So stay ready. Stay faithful. Keep your hands clean and your heart pure. Because when God is about to give you something big, He watches your posture. He examines your worship. He weighs your motives. And He wants to know, do you want the blessing or do you want the giver? Do you seek the gift or do you seek God? Because if you seek God first, everything else will follow. If you chase His will, His wonders will chase you. If you bow and surrender, he will raise you in power. And the thing you thought you lost, he will restore. The thing you cried over, he will redeem. The thing you didn't think you were qualified for, he will anoint you to handle. But you must believe. You must walk with expectation, not with arrogance, but with assurance, not with fear, but with faith. Because when God is about to give you something big, he doesn't ask you to understand. He asks you to believe. To believe when the door is shut. To believe when the answer is delayed. To believe when everything inside of you is weary. Because faith is not just believing when you see it. Faith is believing before it happens. It is that kind of faith that moves the hand of God. And let me tell you this, when God is about to give you something big, the enemy will try harder than ever to distract you. He will send confusion. He will whisper doubt. He will stir up unnecessary conflict, and he will tempt you to settle for less than what God has promised. That's how you know you're close. The pressure intensifies when the breakthrough is near. The noise rises when the blessing is around the corner. And in those moments, you must become even more, because what's ahead of you is not just for comfort. It's for purpose. God doesn't bless just to please you. God blesses to position you. You are being positioned to influence, to speak life, to bring light where there is darkness. And so before the blessing arrives, God teaches you how to manage pain without bitterness, how to walk through betrayal without vengeance, how to suffer without losing your praise. Because when you receive what God has for you, he wants to know you won't be consumed by it, that the blessing won't turn into your burden, that the success won't silence your spirit, that the increase won't disconnect you from the source. God is not just preparing a blessing for you. He is preparing you for the blessing. And when you start to see your life through that lens, you'll begin to realize that even the setbacks were set up. The loss was a lesson. The rejection was redirection. The closed door was God's mercy keeping you from a trap. Every unanswered prayer was not denial. It was divine preservation. Because if God didn't give you what you asked for, it's because he was getting ready to give you more than you asked for. Something bigger, something eternal, something only he could make happen. There was really only one answer, but there were maybe 2 or 3 others, depending on a certain cultural. So if you've been walking through a season where things don't add up, rejoice. If you've been feeling isolated, misjudged, or forgotten, lift your head. That's not a curse. That's not punishment. That's the weight of glory preparing to rest on your life. You see, God doesn't build palaces on unstable ground. He doesn't place crowns on the heads of the untested. So every storm you've survived, every valley you've crawled through, every tear you've cried in secret, they've all been counted. Not one moment of your pain has been wasted. Not one day of your struggle has been ignored. God saw it all, and he is faithful. The signs are not always loud, but they are clear. When God is about to give you something big, your character begins to grow faster than your comfort. Your roots deepen while the fruit delays. You begin to speak less and listen more. You start to walk away from drama, from noise, from anything that poisons your peace. That is God pulling you out of the shallow and into the sacred. That is God teaching you that real blessings don't come with chaos, but with clarity. They don't come with anxiety, but with assurance. And they don't come through striving, but through surrender. God's timing is never early. It is never late. It is precise. It is perfect. But the human heart grows weary. And in that weariness, we begin to question, has God forgotten me? Why does it take so long? But remember, every delay in your life has been in service to something greater. If God had given you what you wanted when you wanted it, you would have settled for a fraction of your purpose. God knows when you're ready. He knows when the conditions are right, and He knows how to prepare a blessing so tailor-made for your soul that when it arrives you will say, only God could have done this. And when that blessing comes, it will not just elevate your life, it will glorify God. People will look at you and not see your talent, not see your strength, but they will see the hand of God. They will wonder how you survived, how you made it through, how you are still standing. And your life will be a living testimony. That's what the blessing is for. Not to make you boast, but to make you bow. Not to draw attention to yourself, but to point all glory back to God, the one who kept you, covered you, and carried you. Now, here's a truth that might shake you. Sometimes God delays the blessing because He wants to see if you'll still worship while you wait. Will you still trust Him when nothing is changing? Will you still praise Him when doors remain shut? Will you still serve when you feel empty? That is the test. Because what you do in the waiting determines what you'll do in the winning. If you complain in the dry season, you'll grow complacent in the harvest. But if you remain faithful in a drought, you'll overflow in the rain. So guard your heart, guard your mind. Don't let bitterness take root. Don't let where weariness rob your joy. Don't let impatience make you miss what's coming. Because just when you think it's over, God moves. Just when you think He's silent, He speaks. Just when you're ready to give up, He opens the door. God doesn't work on your schedule, but He always works. And His work is perfect. His ways are higher, His thoughts are wiser, and His blessings, oh His blessings, they come wrapped in peace, soaked in purpose, and sealed by His power. Listen to me now. God is not going to give you something average. He is not going to give you something that looks like what you lost. He is going to give you something better, something bigger, something that makes you forget the nights you cried, something that makes you understand why it took so long, something that humbles you, not because you deserved it, but because God is good. And when it comes, you will know you won't have to force it. You won't have to manipulate people to keep it. You won't have to compromise your values to hold on to it. Because when something is from God, it fits. It flows, it feels right, it brings peace, it aligns with your spirit, it lifts you, not drains you, it gives life, not anxiety, and it glorifies God, not your ego. You see, the enemy can imitate opportunity, but he cannot manufacture peace. He can offer speed, but not substance. You can offer flash, but not foundation. That's why when you're close to your breakthrough, you must be wise. Not everything that looks good is from God. Some things are tests. Some offers are distractions dressed up as destiny. And it takes discernment to know the difference. So seek God, ask for clarity, wait for confirmation. And when God moves, move with Him. Don't second guess and all. Don't look back. Don't seek the approval of others. Because when God gives the word, no one can stop it. No delay can cancel it. No enemy can block it. No hater can undo it. What God has declared over your life, it is sealed. And some of you right now are standing on the edge of it, and you've felt it coming. You've seen glimpses in your dreams. You've heard whispers in your spirit. And yet, you've been attacked more in this season than ever before. That's not a coincidence. That's confirmation. The enemy wouldn't fight you so hard if you weren't carrying something precious. He wouldn't try to wear you out if he didn't know what was coming. You're not under attack because you're weak. You're under attack because you're close. So don't give up. Don't throw in the towel. Don't believe the lie that says it's too late. With God, it's never too late. He can restore in a moment what you thought was lost forever. He can rebuild what was shattered. He can resurrect what died, because God is not limited by time, by logic, or by human opinion. He is sovereign. He is supreme. He is able. And he is about to do something big in your life. Something that generations after you will speak about. Something that shifts the entire atmosphere around you. Something that brings healing to your family, peace to your soul, and light to everyone around you. But for now, prepare, purify, pray, praise. Because the blessing is not just coming to you. It is coming through you. And there comes a moment in your journey when you realize the very waiting room you despise was actually a holy place. A place where God stripped you of pride, emptied you of noise, and taught you the discipline of stillness. It was in that sacred pause that your ears were tuned to the whisper of God. You didn't know it then, but that quiet season when no doors opened, when no one clapped, when nothing made sense, was the furnace where your character was being refined. God was not withholding from you. God was protecting what he was building within you. You see, when God plans to trust you with something monumental, he must first make sure you are trustworthy. It is easy to desire greatness, but it is another thing to carry it with humility. God doesn't want you to receive the blessing and forget the process. He doesn't want you to stand on a platform and think you climbed there by your own strength. So before the rise comes the crushing, before the overflow comes the pruning. Before the promise, there is always a preparation that feels like pressure. That pressure is holy. That pressure is sacred. That pressure is not the absence of God. It is the evidence that he is near. And when you begin to shift from questioning God's timing to trusting his wisdom, the atmosphere begins to change. Your prayers mature. Your worship deepens. Your dependence becomes pure. No longer are you pleading for comfort. Now you're asking for clarity. You're no longer rushing. Now you're resting in the assurance that what God has appointed no man can cancel. You're allowing God to move as he wills. That is the posture of one who is ready. That is the spirit of someone God can trust. And let me say this boldly. Not everyone will understand your transition. When God is getting ready to give you something big, he separates you from what is small. He removes you from what is shallow. He disconnects you from people who were only attached to your former season. And though it may hurt, do not grieve what God removes. The pruning may feel personal, but it is purposeful. Some people cannot go where God is taking you. Some relationships were never meant to follow you into destiny. And if you continue dragging them into spaces where they don't belong, you will delay what was already ordained. You cannot carry what is holy while clinging to what is harmful. You cannot receive what is sacred while holding on to what is stale. God will not place fire in hands that are still chained to compromise. That's why you felt the shift. That's why your appetite has changed. That's why old habits now feel heavy. God is making room. And he's not asking for your opinion. He's demanding your obedience, because the blessing that's coming is not for your comfort, it's for his glory, and you must be willing to walk alone if that's what obedience requires. Because obedience is the gate through which blessings flow. Not just verbal agreement, not emotional response, but full surrender. When God sees that your heart is yielded, when he sees that your hands are open, when he knows that your agenda is dead and his will is your only desire, that's when the shift becomes visible. That's when what was delayed is released. That's when what you've been carrying in your spirit begins to manifest in your reality. So don't be discouraged by the silence. Don't be shaken by the delay. Don't interpret stillness as stagnation. God often does his greatest work in hiddenness. The roots of a tree grow silently before the branches ever stretch toward the sky. The foundation of a house is laid underground before a single wall is built. God is working beneath the surface of your life. The silence does not mean he is inactive. It means he is being intentional. And when the time comes, it will be sudden. It will be undeniable. It will be so precise that you will look back and say, now I understand. The doors that once refused to open will swing wide. The opportunities you once chased will come searching for you. The favor that once seemed far off will rest on you like a garment, but it will not come to validate you. It will come to glorify God through you. That's the sign that it's from God. It will never feed your pride. Instead, it will humble you. It won't stir up arrogance. It will bring you to your knees. It won't shine the light on you. It will reveal the greatness of the one who authored it all. And when that moment comes, and it will surely come, you'll see that every ounce of pain carried meaning. Every delay was part of God's design. Every closed door was essential. Every tear was planting a seed, and now you are stepping into the harvest, not only of what you prayed for, but of blessings you never imagined you needed. Because God doesn't just meet your prayers, he surpasses them. He hears the cries of your heart that never found words. He knows the desires you tried to hide. And in his perfect wisdom, he gives in a way that both heals and... You may have been waiting for a thing, but God was preparing to give you more than a thing. He was preparing to give you an encounter, a divine shift, a life-altering moment that only he could orchestrate. But only those who endure see the fullness. Only those who trust through the tension experience the overflow. The road is narrow, the climb is steep, but the view, oh, the view is beyond what your mind can imagine. And hear this truth deep in your bones. When God is about to release something beyond comprehension, he will first demand the death of your own will. Not because he wants to hurt you, but because he wants to protect you from the danger of your own desires. God will never allow what you want to suffocate what he ordained. He will ask you to lay your Isaac on the altar, the very thing you've longed for, cried for, prayed for, and see if you can walk away in trust. Because when you can let go of the gift and still worship the giver, then and only then are you ready for the kind of blessing that carries eternal weight. There's a moment where your prayers must shift. Give me to prepare me. Because what God is bringing to your life is not just an answer, it's a responsibility. It will require wisdom to manage it, discipline to sustain it, and humility to carry it. God doesn't bless your ambition. He blesses your submission. The size of what's coming is directly tied to the size of your surrender. The bigger the blessing, the deeper the stripping. And that is why you must not despise the process. The fire is forming something in you that ease never. The pressure is pushing out of you everything that cannot live in the next season. Some of you have been misreading the warfare around you. You thought it was punishment when really it was a preparation for promotion. The attacks you've endured, the betrayal you've survived, the chaos that came out of nowhere, these were not signs of abandonment. They were signs that God was making you battle-tested. Because what's ahead will not only bless you, it will shake systems, shift atmospheres, and silence every voice that spoke against your name. And for that, you must be built strong. Your foundation must be God alone. Your security must be God alone. Your identity must be rooted not in what you hold, but in who holds you. And when God sees that your posture is right, He moves. Not when you complain, not when you beg, but when you align, when your soul stops wrestling and your spirit begins to rest. That is the point of readiness. That is the moment heaven begins to open. And you will find that God doesn't need a crowd to bless you. He doesn't require anyone to approve what He has appointed. In fact, many times your biggest blessings will be birthed in the most private places, in caves, not castles, in stillness, not spectacle, because God is not interested in impressing people. He is interested in transforming you. So don't chase visibility, chase intimacy with God. Don't seek the platform, seek the presence, because the blessing you are about to receive won't make you louder. It will make you quieter. It will humble you, it will convict you, it will press you into even deeper dependence. And the more God gives, the more He expects. Not perfection, but purity. Not performance, but posture. A heart that stays bowed even in success. A soul that trembles at His whisper, even when standing on the mountaintop. And understand this. When God chooses to give you something big, it's because He's also assigned something eternal to your name. The blessing is not just about money, status, or recognition. The blessing is about impact. It is about legacy. It is about light in dark places. Not so you can rise, but so that He can be revealed through your rise. You are a vessel, a carrier, a light bearer. And for that role, you must be refined. So let the fire do its work. Let the silence shape your ears to hear what noise could never teach you. Let the waiting stretch your faith until it no longer depends on evidence. Because when you walk by conviction and not condition, you are ready for what others can carry. Many are called, but few are prepared. The preparation is what separates the temporary from the timeless. And here's what you must never forget. God is watching how you handle the small things. He's watching how you treat people who can do nothing for you. He's watching how you steward the quiet seasons, the unnoticed labor, the prayers prayed in secret. Because when He's about to give you something big, He looks not at your public voice, but at your private loyalty. Do you still praise when there is no audience? Do you still trust when the door stays shut? Do you still obey when the reward is invisible? That is where the real work happens. Not on the stage, but in the secret place. Not in what people see, but in what only God sees. And when that hidden foundation is strong, God will lift you. He will promote you. He will elevate you. Not to shine a light on you, but to shine a light through you. So keep building in silence. Keep sowing in faith. Keep walking even when no one applauds. Because what God is about to do in your life is not seasonal. It's supernatural. It's not manufactured by man. It's manifested by God. And when it comes, it will not be small. It will not be average. It will be evidence. Evidence of divine favor. Evidence of holy preparation. Evidence that God saw you when no one else did and remembered you when everyone else forgot. And you will stand in that moment, not as someone who got lucky, but as someone who was proven, someone who was pressed, purified, and positioned, someone who passed the test. And the beauty of it all, you won't need to explain it. You won't need to defend it. It will declare the greatness of God through the story of your life. So lift your head, square your shoulders, fix your heart on God, because you are not just waiting, you are being watched by heaven. And the moment of release is coming. And when it comes, the blessing will overtake you. Not because you were the most talented, not because you had the best plan, but because you trusted God. You stayed when it hurt. You worshiped when it was dark. You kept going when it made no sense. And God will reward you in a way that only He can. When God is preparing to give you something big, He doesn't only examine your faith, He also examines your intentions. What are you truly asking for? Is it to serve God's purpose or to satisfy your pride? Is it to glorify His name or to elevate your own? God does not release the weight of His blessings into the hands of those who crave recognition more than righteousness. Does not pour out the oil of His favor upon those who are chasing applause instead of chasing Him. The heart must be pure. The soul must be stripped of self-centered desires, because what God is about to give you is not just a reward. It is a sacred responsibility, because there is not a God, there is an earth. When God begins to prepare something divine, He does not work with haste. The greater the assignment, the deeper the cleansing. You may feel stretched beyond your limit, tested beyond your strength, but it is because God is expanding the borders of your soul. The vessel must be made ready for the weight it is destined to carry. A shallow foundation cannot hold a towering structure. A brittle spirit cannot steward a blessing forged in the fires of purpose. So if you feel as though you've been broken, it is because God is removing everything that cannot endure what is coming. He is tearing down every counterfeit identity, every false comfort, every idol of control that you've clung to, so that when He builds, it is His hand alone that is visible. Understand this. When God calls you to something big, He rarely gives you all the details. He gives you just enough light for the next step. Because the blessing is not merely in the destination. It is in learning to trust the path you cannot see. Faith is not about walking where it makes sense. Faith is about walking where only obedience can lead you. And that is when you begin to grow, not just in what you know, but in who you become. God is shaping a soul that can weather storms without folding, a heart that can be trusted with power and not be corrupted by it. You may have cried in the dark, asking why the journey has taken so long. You may have whispered prayers soaked in sorrow, wondering if God still sees you. Let this be the answer your spirit has waited for. God sees all. God hears every unspoken plea, counts every tear that falls in secret, and reads every thought that trembles within your chest. Nothing escapes his watch. Nothing delays without purpose. And when God decides it is time, no force on earth can stand in the way. No enemy can undo what God has written. No man can revoke what God has approved. It will be delivered, not a second too soon, not a breath too late. And you must recognize this. The closer you get to what God has ordained, the more intense the spiritual resistance will become. This is not a sign that you are failing. It is a signal that the gates of opposition have noticed your momentum. But you must not retreat. You must not shrink back. The resistance is a revelation. It means you are aligned. It means you are advancing. God does not allow giants to appear before those who are not destined to conquer. The presence of opposition is proof that something powerful is ahead. But you must not fight with fleshly weapons. When God is your source, your strategy must be spiritual. You win battles through unwavering trust. You overcome through consistent obedience. You walk into victory by speaking what God has spoken. Even when the visible world contradicts it, speak as though it's already done. Praise as though it's already yours. Move as though the promise is not a distant hope but a present certainty. That is the kind of faith that commands heaven's attention. And do not let comparison dilute your conviction. What God is preparing for you cannot be measured by what others have received. Stay in your lane. Guard your eyes. Keep your focus on what God is doing in you, not what he's doing for someone else. Because when your time comes, and it will come, it will fit you perfectly. It will speak your name. It will require every lesson you've learned, every pain you've endured, every step of the obedience you've walked. You will realize then that God wasn't just preparing the blessing for you. He was preparing you for the blessing. And the transformation that happens in the waiting, that's the real miracle. Before the fruit appears, the roots go deep. Before the promise is fulfilled, the soul is fortified. God uses the waiting season to teach you things that victory alone could never teach. He uses the quiet to show you who he truly is, without distractions, without applause, without noise. It is there, in the stillness, that God reveals the depths of his mercy and the fire of his purpose. So walk through the delay with dignity. Let your silence be loud with confidence in God. Let your stillness echo with trust. Let your obedience sing louder than any fear or doubt, because every step you take in the dark is building a testimony that will shine in the light. God will use your endurance as evidence. He will use your faithfulness as a foundation. He will make your life a mirror that reflects his power. Not your perfection, not your performance, but his absolute and unshakable power. When the moment arrives, and know it will arrive, you won't have to force it. You won't have to manipulate it. You won't have to make it happen with your own strength. You will step into it and realize it was tailor-made by the hand of God. Doors will open, not because you knocked loud enough, but because God commanded them to. People will honor what you carry, not because you demanded respect, but because they will sense that what is on your life came from a higher place. And in that hour, do not forget where it came from. Do not mistake the blessing for the source. Do not cling to the gift and forget the giver. The moment you try to hold it in your own power, it will start to weigh you down. But if you carry it with the same surrender that led you there, it will lift you. It will strengthen you. It will multiply, not only in your life, but in the lives of those connected to your obedience. And I say to every soul listening, when God is about to give you something big, the atmosphere around you will begin to shift in ways that cannot be explained by human logic. You may not see physical changes yet, but your spirit will know. Your discernment will awaken. Your dreams will carry messages too weighty for your sleep. You will feel the pull toward quiet, the divine urge to step back from noise and sink deeper into stillness. Because God does not shout when he speaks destiny. He whispers it in moments of sacred solitude. He draws you away from the crowd, not to isolate you, but to elevate your awareness of him. And here is the deep truth many miss. Before God sends the increase, he often causes a shaking. The things you leaned on will tremble. The things you trusted will be tested, not to destroy you, but to strip away everything that could contaminate what is coming. God is not trying to take from you. He is trying to purify what will remain in you. Every great thing from God is born in a moment of surrender, and you cannot truly surrender until God has shown you that there's nothing else worth holding on to except him. Some of you have been wondering why your prayers haven't been answered in the way you expected. But let me speak this clearly. Just because you have not seen the fruit yet does not mean the roots aren't growing. God is working underground. God is building silently. And when he finally brings it forth, it will happen so suddenly, so unmistakably, that no man will be able to take credit. It will come from angles you did not anticipate, through doors you never knocked on, from places your mind never imagined. That's how God moves, unexpectedly, but precisely. But God will not release what is great into a vessel that is still clinging to what is small. So ask yourself, what do I need to release in order to receive? What fear do I need to lay down? What habit must be crucified in the secret place? What mindset must be broken so God can build upon something stable? The blessing you're waiting for doesn't just require an open hand. It requires a new heart. Not a perfect heart, but a heart that is teachable, pliable, yielded entirely to the will of God. Do not fear the pruning. Do not resist the process. Every cut is under the control of God's wisdom. Every delay is laced with divine strategy. Every disappointment is a redirection away from the counterfeit and toward what is truly yours by appointment. And make no mistake, what God has for you, no one else can touch. You don't need to compete, compare, or control. All you need to do is stay positioned, stay humble, stay faithful, and allow God to finish what he started. And when you feel the weight of waiting grow heavy, remember, God is not just testing your patience, he is cultivating your endurance. The kind of endurance that won't just carry the blessing, it will protect it. You must be able to handle what comes with the blessing, The visibility, the responsibility, the pressure, the attacks, the tests that come after the triumph. This is why God prepares in layers. And this is why God prepares in, He doesn't just give, you grow into it. You become what the promise requires. And when the time is right, He lets you walk in it without fear, without shame, without apology. So do not despise the silence. God is still speaking, just not with words. You expect sometimes He speaks through closed doors, sometimes through unanswered emails, sometimes through empty rooms and restless nights. But if your ears are tuned to the frequency of the Spirit, you'll know that those moments are not void. They are divine communication. God is saying, wait, trust, I'm aligning everything. And when the alignment is complete, you won't have to ask for the blessing. It will chase you. It will find you at the intersection of obedience and surrender. And when it arrives, be ready to carry it with grace. Because with every big blessing comes big accountability. God will bless you to lift others, not to lord over them. He will give you influence to heal, not to harm. He will increase you to serve, not to be served. May the blessing is not an end. It's a beginning of a new level of responsibility, of sacrifice, of faithfulness. So now's not the time to lose focus. Now is the time to refine your walk, sharpen your vision, discipline your habits, and dig deeper into the heart of God. Because soon the silence will break, the storm will pass, the light will shine, and you will step into the thing that God has been preparing all along. Not because you earned it, but because you endured. Not because you strived, but because you submitted. And in that moment, you will look back and thank God for every door He closed, for every delay He allowed, for every prayer He didn't answer. Because now you see what He was doing. He wasn't withholding, He was perfecting. So take courage. Let your spirit be lifted, not in your own strength, but in the Lord alone. Hold your head high, even if your hands can't stop shaking. Declare faith, even when your voice feels fragile. Step forward, even if the road ahead is still uncertain. For what lies before you is not merely great, it is holy. And if you remain firm in obedience, anchored in truth, and walking in God's plan, you will carry it with strength, with wisdom, and with peace that transcends all reason. This is the moment when God rearranges things suddenly, when long-awaited hopes take form, when whispered prayers turn into living evidence, when quiet trust is honored in the open. And when it unfolds, let your first words not be, "See what I accomplished," but all glory to God who noticed me in silence and lifted me in His perfect time. Because this is not the product of human striving. It is the unveiling of God's timing. And it is on the way. It is on the way. Stay watchful. Stay yielded. God has not finished yet. He is only beginning.